Hello. Hi, everybody. See, people are starting to join. I think you have to unmute yourself and accept the permissions because this is a recorded meeting. Lucas, I have a question. How do you pronounce your last name? Because I want to highlight the work that you did for Agent Connect, um, but I don't want to mispronounce your name.
Sorry?
Lucas, I asked how
Uh,
you pronounce your last name correctly, so I can say it on the call correctly.
yes, Janecek. What?
Janacek?
Yes.
Okay, I will do my best. You'll forgive me if I get it wrong, hopefully.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, everybody. I think we normally give it until about 5 past. Give everyone time to join. Okay, we're getting pretty good showing early, so we might give it a start in just a minute. Okay, I think we can go ahead and get started. We have about 30 on the line, which is not bad for the last of the vacation months. So everybody, welcome to the September community call. This is our last call of Q3, which is kind of crazy that we're already approaching the end of the year. So a reminder, if you're not already part of the Discord channel, that's where we like to have a lot of our community collaboration. And of course, in our GitHub and the GitHub discussions as well, if they pertain to certain features or discussions around the platform or framework themselves. I dropped that link in the chat for the Discord. And maybe Eden, you can help me by putting the GitHub links to the discussions in the chat as well. Thanks. I see you nod. So last month we had some big announcements. We talked about the merger with ACP and A2A, Agent Communication Protocol, ACP to A2A or Agent to Agent Protocol by Google. And if you missed an announcement, we'll add that link as well in the chat so you can read the recap of that. This month we're a little lighter on announcements, so we're going to go into some more feature updates. So if you have any topics that you'd like to talk about or you're holding on to, feel free to drop them in the chat or come off mute during the call. You're welcome to participate in any way that you feel comfortable you'd like. So to kick us off, I'm going to highlight some of the community contributions that we've had this month. And then we're going to go right into the updates on the BAI framework. I'll hand it off to Tomas. And the BAI platform, I will hand it off to also Tomas. But different Tomas. And then we'll open it up to the Q&A and the audience for any questions. So with that ado, I will go ahead and share my screen. So we have two things to share this month for community highlights. Let me just share my screen. All right. The first one is the inclusion of BAI as an example in the IBM Agent Connect. So for those that are not familiar with Agent Connect, it is Watson's Orchestrate framework to connect external agents like BAI, LangChain, Crew AI agents into Watson Orchestrate. And so we have a great example that was contributed by Lucas. Lucas told me how to pronounce Janacek. I think I got that right. Um,
Yeah.
and so, okay, great. Thanks, Lucas. And so if you are using Watson Orchestrate for anything and want to include a BAI agent, there's an example of how to do so here. And I put that in the chat as well. And then as a second contribution and highlight, we had a blog that was written by Akriti Agarwal, and she narrowed down on PII. So PII being personal information. And she compared two approaches. She compared just normal regex based scrubbing and then also an agentic approach, and found that the agentic approach was more malleable, more flexible, caught things that regex did not. And actually recommended at the end that it's probably good to use a combination of both a regex approach and a framework approach or agentic approach using BAI or another framework to get a more kind of rounded view on how to extract PII. So there's that. I also have one more thing I want to share briefly. We had a blog come out on agent reliability with BAI. And this is something that we've talked about on these community calls before, the concept of a requirement agent. But we had a blog come out and I just wanted to share some big highlights from it. So in this use case, we were creating an agent that followed this pattern. So it must think first, and then it must use the weather tool at least once, but not consecutive times in a row, and it can only search the internet once it has gotten at least the weather tool once. So the mermaid diagram looks something like this, which you might think is quite straightforward, but when you're actually programming that in different frameworks, so for instance, I used another framework, I used LangGraph, and it was rather long. I think it was about 180 lines of code to implement all of that logic. versus I was able to implement the same rules or logic with just about 30 lines of code here using the requirement agent by using these conditional requirements. And so if you're interested in making production-ready, reliable agents with much less code because the framework handles the rules in the backend for you, then I recommend checking this article out and trying the requirement agent. So with that, I will stop my sharing and I'll put that link in the chat as well. And I want to hand it off to Tomas D first for some framework updates.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this. So let me share my screen so I can give you some updates from the framework. So what we've got from the last month. So we added a BI platform chat model to the framework because if you were trying to use the serve module in the framework with the platform, you might encounter a problem where you want to pick a certain model in the UI, but you can't because you already picked one in the code. So this special chat model allows you to just pass an empty class that gets initiated later on via the serve model. So you can use the nice model picker from the platform UI. We also simplified the way you register and the register callbacks. So now you can use decorators, as I will show you in a minute. You can also expose agents and other primitives from the framework as MCP servers. And you can pick which transport you'd like. We now support platform extensions in the BI platform agent. Remember that we have a BI platform server that allows you to serve your agents to the platform, or you can consume external agents like from the platform in your application. So you can use this class to do so. We added LangChain chat model because LangChain, like language model adapters ecosystem, is huge. So if you find a provider that isn't supported in BAI and is supported in LangChain, you can just use this class that does the bridge process between those two, because it was present in the TypeScript, but it wasn't in Python until now. So it's now available. Give it a try. And if you want to expose your agents or your application via A2A protocol without the platform, you can obviously use the A2A adapter, the serve module in the framework. And now you can specify the concrete like transport for that one, which protocol for the transport should be used. We also fixed some bugs. So first one was IBM Watson X AI and the tool calling. It uses some special way of transmitting data. So now you can use Watson X AI model with streaming set to true to being enabled. And we now propagate errors from the MCP tool. I mentioned the dynamic chat model selection. So this is a very brief example how it works. So you basically initiate an agent or something, and instead of passing like Olama chat model or Watson XI chat model, you pass BI platform chat model, and you can optionally pass preferred models. If such model is available in the UI will pick that for you. And this field is fully optional, so it's up to the user which model they do prefer. And then you just serve the model as you would do before. So about event callback registration, it's now even simpler. So instead of providing or doing that manually, like typing agent.emitter on event, comma, and the callback or the function, you can now use the decorator approach, where you just decorate the function that is about to be used. where you can optionally specify event name as the first parameter to the decorator. And if you don't specify, we will try to guess the event name from that function. We strip handler underscore or on underscore prefixes. So the first function in this example gets called when there is a start event, whereas the second function, where there is no explicit event name, is inferred from the function name. So the second function gets called when there is a success event. We can then run the agent, and we can then do the registration of those callbacks. And finally, how you can expose agents as MCP servers. Just create your agent and use the MCP server from the serve module, and then register your agent and run the serve module, and you are ready to go. So what's coming next? This week, we would like to finish runables. We already migrated a huge portion of the system, but the only missing piece is the chat module that is about to be finished very soon. And then there is a new workflow concept that we have agreed on in our discussion on GitHub. So we now just need to implement that. There is a loader concept that we would like to introduce very soon that allows you to basically define your application via YAML or JSON as a very declarative approach. So you don't need to write a single line of code, and you can define your application flow in it. And we've seen that our TypeScript version has diverged, so we are about to kind of unify that, so they are in parity as they should be. So this is it from my side. So back to you, Sandy.
Thanks, Tomas. Appreciate that. We'll pause for any questions and see if there's any questions on the framework side before we move on to the platform side. There's 40 people listening, so someone must be curious about something. Okay, it's prompted one hand raise. Jinsen, go ahead.
Hey, Sandy. Hey, Thomas. So, do we plan to, stream the updates from requirement agent? Like I saw you created decorators for start and the general purpose update event. Any, if there was a way where we can stream the output that gets generated, it will be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, do you mean like the final answer?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So the final answer, streaming that in recommend agent is kind of tricky because the recommend agent is based on a tool calling. So even a final answer is a tool call that has a certain structure. So basically, it's a JSON, and it's kind of tricky to stream JSONs. We would like to at least enable that as a default behavior. So if you don't specify like a custom schema for the expected output, you should be able to stream like the final text. But if you do so, then we can't do that because we don't know which field in your schema is intended to be streamed. So there is an open issue. We know about that. So it would be really great to kind of jot it down, jot those thoughts so that we can iterate on that. But I think that it can be implemented right now, but you obviously need to do it by yourself. So it can get kind of verbose.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
We also have one more question in the chat by Shrikant. We have just wondering how agents are configured as MCP servers.
Yeah, so in order to configure them, you can pass the MCP server config option where you can specify stuff that like parameters that the underlying library accepts. And if you don't specify any, we will just use some defaults. And once you run the serve module, there will be some information print out to the console to like whether it's which transport is being used, and etc. And
Do you think
currently,
we should?
Mhm.
Sorry, go ahead, Thomas.
I just want to mention that this is how we like expose stuff. So the agent works as it did before, and you can also consume MCP service. We have a via the MCP tool or MCP client.
Nice.
Mhm.
And I'm planning on writing a piece on this as well, so we'll have examples ready and like a blog post that goes out on how to do this coming soon. The next question is for the platform update, really. So I think I will let Tomas Weiss go for the platform update, and then we can go back to this next question.
Yeah, thank you, Sandy. But before I start, I also have one question for Tomasz, because you mentioned the streaming support for Final Answer tool. What about thinking tool? I mean, like in general, a tool which produces a string instead of structured data.
Same story, I would say. If
Yeah.
we stick to the default schema that we are using for the think tool, then definitely we can stream that. But once you pass your own schema that is like more complicated, or if it's unknown to us, we can do it, or we can stream the partial JSON object, if you will.
All right, thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's get started with the platform update. All right. So let me make it a bit bigger. All right. So but today I prepared two demos. One is a feature that is currently available, and that's a structured user input via forms in GUI. That's something you can already try out. It's in the latest version of the platform. The other one is in progress. It's not yet available, but will be very soon available as well. And that's OAuth for MCPs, which is very useful. And I'll show you a demo of those two today. But apart from that, we have a lot of stuff right now in the pipeline. So you can expect a lot of really good stuff coming pretty soon. And things like session history, for example, which is very important feature in the platform, or even like user authentication, which allows us to do a bit more, when it comes to multi-tenancy and some other features, which I'll cover later. So let's get started with the major one, and that's the structured user input. So we've built this form extension, and that is fully supported in the GUI. The way it works is you, as an agent builder, can request a form to be as input from the user, and that can happen either when initiating the conversation or on demand during the conversation, when anytime there is a need for structured input. We also, as part of the extension, we really try to allow you to make it visually appealing, to make the forms visually appealing, so you can configure the way it is rendered via simple layouting capabilities, like providing a number of columns as well as column spans. And there is a set of predefined form components that are usually something that the user would expect to be available when it comes to building forms, like checkboxes, input fields, date fields, and so on and so forth. I really encourage you to go through the documentation, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do now, because in the documentation there are some examples how to use it. But what I'm gonna do now is, like, I would like to show you the initial form rendering. That's basically the use case where you need to know the structured input before the conversation even starts. You request it from the user. So what I'm gonna do now is, I have this agent starter here. I'm gonna paste it here, and let's run the agent. Let's go back to the platform. I'm running it locally, so it's gonna be a bit slower here. So I have this initial form agent. When I started, as you can see, there is a form, right? I have it prompts me to provide a name and a last name, and upon submission, it gets to the result. So the way it is implemented, as usual, throughout the extension, here is the form render, where you define like what fields you expect, from user to provide, and then you just parse the form response, which is basically the first message, and you can do anything you want with those data inside your agent. So that's the simple use case, where basically the input is the first thing you want from your user, like this. But we also support dynamic form request, which is throughout the conversation. As you can see, I normally start the agent, and whenever there is a word, like this is a very simple example, whenever there's a word contact inside the message, or reach, or something else, I don't know, yeah, just reach or contact, the agent would request a form. So what I'm gonna do now is I'll paste the code here. Let's restart it. So, hi, hello, blah, 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 and contact you. So I'll say, yes, contact me. And you see that the agent requested a form that user needs to fill in. Whatever I type in, it just gets parsed, and I can use it, inside the conversation from now on. So these were the forms. I think it's pretty cool. It allows some really nice use cases, and that's a lot of users are really happy about this new feature. So go check out the documentation, and if you feel like you're missing some component, or you have any feedback on the forums, feel free to raise the discussion, or just reach out to us on Discord. So that's the forms feature. The other thing I wanted to demo today is the MCP OAuth integration. So the OAuth integration, first of all, couple concepts, right? So what is MCP and what is OAuth? I think most of you already know both terms, but they are very powerful when it comes to the combination, because MCP is a model context protocol that allows you to plug in some external things inside your LLM calls, and the auth is authorization mechanism, basically how you can authorize your users. And in combination, obviously, what it allows us to do is when you use the MCP tool, and the MCP tool depends on some third party, then that third party can raise a traditional OAuth flow, which would authorize the user, and then the tool can actually obtain the token, which can be used to work with their data, which is very, very useful. I would say right now there are some limitations though. First of all, adoption, right? There are a lot of MCP servers running MCP servers you can use. Unfortunately, not all of them actually support the OAuth yet, but we really believe that will change in a very short time frame, because this is really powerful. So one thing is that we would need the support for we would need the MCP servers to actually leverage the whole OAuth thing, the whole OAuth authorization. That's one problem. And the other is that even if even if it supports the OAuth, like usually like third parties do support the OAuth, then the other problem is that it needs to support dynamic client registration, because normally in OAuth you need to register the client manually, you know, provide a secret and so on and so forth, which is unfortunately something we cannot do here, right? So that's why there's this concept of dynamic client registration, where you can dynamically register the client, and it just works out of the box. So for this example, I pick one running MCP server, which is Stripes, which supports both OAuth plus the dynamic client registration. So it just works. We really believe that the adoption will follow soon, because like I said, it's really powerful. So let me show you another agent. I need to kill this one. So here I prepared this Stripe agent. The way it works is it's a requirement agent. It uses MCP, and when you build your streamable HTTP client, you can provide this auth, right? This is basically HTTPX, plugin. So we have an extension that is auth. That all you need to do here is like literally inject the extension, and then make sure you use it inside your MCP client. And then it just works like a magic. I'll show you in the GUI. So what I do here is I just filter the tools, set up the requirement agent, provide those filter tools, and then that's pretty much it, right? Let's see how it works. So hello, what do you need in Stripe? So before I type in the prompt, this is my Stripe account. This is a sandbox. What I did is created those two products here, another product and testing product for BAI demo. And I can try list me products. So the agent responded with authorization required. Like this is still in progress, so the UI will change most likely. But basically, what you need to do is like you need to hit the authorize button. It's gonna bring you to the Stripe, where you as a user need to consent all the claims that the agent is requiring. And because there is no it's actually dynamic client registration, so it just works. You don't need to set up anything or something, it just works. So I just hit the continue, and it will bring me back to localhost. User has granted access, and now it's just, you see, I need to retrieve a list of products from Stripe. Since I can specify limit numbers, blah, blah, blah. I should consider whether to set a specific limit to retrieve all available products. Okay, so it's pretty smart. And then it calls this listing products in Stripe tool, which responded with another product and the testing product for BI demo, which are those two products available in the Stripe. All right, so this is a Stripe demo. I think it's pretty cool. And it allows some really nice use cases. For example, like GitHub has a hosted MCP server. Unfortunately, they don't support yet dynamic client registration, but there is a issue. So it will be available soon. But once this is available, then like you can just plug in the GitHub integration, and it just works like a magic. All right, let's go to what's coming up soon, and actually very soon, like maybe even this week. So let's go through all the features. The session history, obviously, you'll be able to store the conversations. That's very important feature for the users. Another big one is user authentication. So you will be able to actually authenticate to the AI platform, and that I mean, like on local environment, it doesn't make that much sense, but it on like hosted environments, that's a different story because it allows us to do some really cool multi-tenant capable use cases. Like for example, agent installation via GUI. So now once we'll have users, the developers will be able to actually plug in dynamically the agent inside a GUI without even needing to just change the infrastructure or something. It's just work. So that's these two connected things, right? Then we have agent settings. That's a cool one as well. For each individual run, you as a end user running your agent, you are actually able to provide some settings for the user. Like for example, you want to disable thinking, or in in multi-turn conversation, you want to enable thinking as possible. So that's agent settings. And last but not least is agent secrets. So obviously, like I mentioned, not all MCP tools support OAuth these days, and that's a kind of escape hatch. So that you have two options. Either you configure your agent when deploying it. Basically, you can provide secrets, right? That's one option. If you want developer to just provide a secret. Another option is to use the extension and require it from the user. So if user wants to use a tool and then that tool depends on a secret and you wanted this secret to be user specific, you can use this extension to request the secret that the agent will use on their behalf. So that's the agent secret feature, also coming pretty soon. All right. So as usual, any feedback, discussions, specifically on those new features that I presented, it's all greatly appreciated if you guys involve in discussions and just share your questions either in GitHub or Discord. We are super open to all ideas that you have. So that's it for me. Thank you. And I guess questions now.
Well, there was actually one question previously, which asks, is there an option to customize provider or agent's auto stop timeout setting on the BAI platform?
Yeah. I think, I'm not sure, that would be better answered by Radek. I'm not sure if he's here. He's here. But I don't know if he listens. But I know that this option, yeah, maybe Radek, you can answer this one.
Yeah, sorry, I think it can be customized. Not sure if it's available in the Helm chart. If not, just I don't know, send us issue on GitHub and we will add it. It's a minor change.
Yep.
Yeah. So Sagar, if that's something that you are interested in or that is necessary for one of your use cases that you're building with, just open an issue. So lots of new features on the platform. So any questions on auth or the MCP integrations or the forms, which I think will open up a lot of possibilities for things that were impossible before. I've learned to give it a minute because I feel like the longer I stare at everybody, the more questions arise. Okay, one question. 20 seconds of awkward silence worked. All right, Dean, go ahead, come off mute.
Sure. Speaking of the auth, definitely super excited about the feature. Will the platform provide the necessary backend, to manage the users, or are we going to need to provide our own service for that?
Not right now. We consider this as well, but currently the integration with the authentication is just like IBM ID. Maybe Radek, you can elaborate on that a bit, but the user management is right now not part of it, obviously, as it's just integration with the auth provider.
Yes, so we support auth providers in general, which means like IBM Security Verify or Keycloak or any auth provider should be supported. But yeah, the users are created, like we have users in database, and certain objects are attributed to them. So there is ownership and there are permissions, and the users can have different roles. So we have some sort of user management. But yeah, this can be also like it's a two-part thing. So one part is the auth provider, and second part is the database. So we do create new users when they come in through the auth. We create them in database automatically. Did that answer the question?
Yeah. So quick follow up. Then will we be able to, manage our users? And so in other words, only give certain users ability to use certain agents or things like that.
Yeah, that's a good
All
one,
right.
actually. Yeah, sorry, Radek, go ahead, maybe.
Yeah, right now there's not this capability, but we have the concept of roles. So and the concept of ownership of the agents. So we are thinking about it that like any user will be able to use any agent, but they will only be able to like modify, delete, or like provide credentials for their own agents. If they are given the developer role, which is like higher privilege role to access the platform, because the deploying agents is somewhat like trusted action. So yeah, but this is still like early stage in the concept of permissions and ownership of agents. So we are this is our approach right now, but we are willing to like reconsider, or maybe it will change in the future.
Yeah. To also further elaborate on this one, so naturally, what can happen at some point is that like once people start adding their own agents, the global library of agents can be polluted by a lot of unwanted stuff, right? So what we were thinking is, user would normally see just their own agents plus the ones that are global, which means like, basically that are registered in the platform. And then obviously when you have a link to your agent, then it's public. So you can still like share the agent with the others. So that's not really secure, but gives you an option to actually share your agent with the others while not having a crazy huge list of agents where anyone can contribute. That's basically the first workaround, how to kind of achieve some option to share your agents, but also not do a lot of implementation when it comes to managing permissions and things like that.
Okay.
We have one more question from Mutez. You want to come off mute? I think you have to come off mute, and unless the hand raise was an accident, in which case I will then pass it off to. Okay. Oh no, there was another hand raise. Chintan, why don't you go with your question while Mutez figures out his mic situation?
Yeah. So last week, I faced an issue with platform where I registered an agent on the server, and then I was able to access it while running on the terminal. But when I run the same setup on containers, it failed. And later I figured out that the issue was with the way the servers exposed the agent card URL that was actually creating an issue, and the URL that was being formed in the agent card that was taking the parameters like host and port from the server parameters itself. So for example, if I provided 0.0.0.0 for the host and maybe some port, then the same host and port were being used to create the agent card URL. And because of that, we on the client side, this agent couldn't be resolved and that was failing. So I see, Thomas Pillar, you raised, not you, I think, but someone raised that pull request. I was just not sure how would we use moving forward because the existing setup couldn't work in containers.
Yeah. I guess I would need to check that. Like, so you said that did you file an issue for that one? Because it seemed to me like this is basically an issue, something we should focus on when it comes to the agent card.
Yeah.
I think we already resolved that. We
Yeah.
allowed overriding the URL that gets into the agent card in the agent decorator.
Right. I just shared the link to that pull request.
Yeah. Yeah, this one, this one has been merged. So you can actually expect this to be part of the next release, which is hopefully happening today.
Oh, nice. Great, thanks. That's all. I wanted to bring it up.
So I think Mutez is having trouble unmuting himself. And so in the meantime, I'll ask one question while he hopefully types out his question in the chat. So Shrikant asked, when will we see Llama Stack integration with BAI framework? So more of a framework question for you, Tomas, maybe, but
Maybe. So actually, I don't see what it brings to us. Maybe to do that. So if you could clarify in the comment or say it out loud. Yeah. So it's not on our roadmap. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's something that you see a need or a gap for, then please let us know and we can, see whether it is worthwhile to put on the roadmap.
I would also
okay.
like,
So go ahead.
yeah, if I can maybe elaborate on this from the platform perspective, because we've been also considering this as well. We see there is a lot of overlap, and we basically, since we decided to go with the A2A, and then we are building our own take on like how to do embeddings and stuff, which is a lot of things that actually Llamastick solves. Then there's not really a need right now for Llamastick integration, and we decided to go with this way, this path. Potentially, what we could do is maybe we would say, we support Llamastick agents, and we support or we implement actually Llamastick interfaces for embeddings, LLMs, and so on and so forth. But I think it's right now at this stage, it's kind of incompatible. Or at least it doesn't make that much sense to keep those two things alongside. So not definitely on the platform level, that's not something that's coming soon.
Then next question is a framework question as well. So Mutez says, I have a case where I need to implement a shared memory between two agents, where the first agent's reasoning is based on the other agent's previous actions, and vice versa. I just wanted to know if this is possible with the B agent framework.
Yeah, so definitely it is. You can just create a single memory instance and you can pass it to the first agent and also to the second one. And that should do the job. Or you can just combine them into a single agent or a workflow, if you will, to make it more obvious that this is happening. Yeah, so it depends. So it's definitely doable.
Yeah, also from the platform perspective, we will be soon adding the persistence in context. There's this concept that we call context, which is basically the conversation, and there are like the files uploaded to the conversation and the messages from agents and from users. And you can basically create one context and share it with multiple agents. So even if like all of your agents are implemented in different frameworks or even like different programming languages, if they conform to the API and they use the context, then you can share the memory basically this way between them.
Awesome. Well, I don't see any more questions rolling in right now, so I would say speak now or forever hold your peace, but you can also just use the Discord, ask your questions, go to the GitHub discussions, ask your questions, or join us next month for our October community call. So with that ado, if nothing rolls in, by the time we wrap up, then thank you everybody for joining the September community call. Appreciate your participation in the discussion. And you know where to find us if you have any more questions. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.